But if I fast forward, we actually, thought that perhaps at some point we might need to expand. And then how do we expand? And it was just a few years later when we thought that, do we perhaps, take an interest in other franchise operations, because there were lots of opportunities in that regard, until my late wife said, no. What about our own? How about doing something that perhaps when we talked about it, for me, it would be a legacy project. It would be a retirement project. It would be something that would be an inspiration for other people. It would be something that would be visionary. It would be something that would make us depart from the doctrines of a franchise proposition, where we actually are now the franchisors ourselves, if you will, and building things from scratch, and in particular, showing that it could be done. And I've got to say that happened around the year 2017 when that concept came true. And I have to, and I'm not shy to say this in your channel, that at that stage, both my wife and I were 57 years old. And people thought that we were absolutely crazy. Why would we at that late stage start something new? Because there's lots of failures in business around many places. And why would we take a risk like that? Why don't we, whatever it is that I had built up to that time, whatever she was building through the franchise, we just keep it nicely for retirement.
And enjoy the money.
Don't
risk it.
Exactly. And enjoy the pleasures of travel and whatever, because it's hard-earned money, rather than to put it in a risky venture, especially building a name that would be completely new, that would have to find itself, to establish itself, bring its own opportunities and challenges. And who knows, it may be successful, but it may also not be successful. That was the risk element. To cut the long story short, I said, we've got the ingredients of success. Firstly, on the operational side, you've had the opportunity to operate a franchise in food. On the business side, I've actually managed large businesses, including franchise operations.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like you said you were in corporate.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask, what is it that you did in corporate that you think also added to you having the confidence to say, I've done this before, one way or another?
Absolutely.
What was your background then?
Yes. No. Thank you for the question. In corporate, I did various roles, but notably, I managed the retail businesses. I was part of primarily two very, very large companies in the oil and energy sector. And I am probably one of the people that got very intimately involved with the convenience retailing stores.
Yes.
And I had experience both in the country.
When you say convenience stores, do you mean the one in the...
These are the shops.
What are these garages? Garages, yeah.
Yes, correctly. Yes, there. I had a pleasure of being close to those operations, including building elements of them from scratch.
Studying the entire garage from scratch.
Not the garage, the retail shops.
How they would look.
Yes, what offering they should have, what they should look like, and what makes sense from a business point of view, and what role do they play in terms of obviously making the garage owner competitive, because you needed to provide people with some element of convenience for people to come to you. Otherwise, then petrol is petrol. There's no differentiation. So how do you achieve those elements of differentiation? And so the whole concept of convenience retailing at its very early stages, linked to service stations, or garages as they are called, I was part of. And I had a privilege of actually even doing that work beyond our country. I did that work overseas.
In other countries?
Overseas. Well, I was based in England for a while, and I did that work there. I did it in the US. I did it in Australia. I did it in Europe at the time. That was the early stages of convenience retailing. I then managed the master franchise of one of these two companies where I was responsible for their franchise operations. So if you take the structures of the company, the retail support, then there would be a team that supports the service stations from the franchise. But the head of that at some point was me.
Right.
So the business grounding in terms of this, it was not strictly food as a
restaurant. Yes, but the operations
are pretty similar. The practices and the disciplines that you bring across are pretty much as the same. So sure. And the disciplines that you bring across are pretty much the same. So for me, I felt, just to go and link back to the story, I felt that when my wife made the call to say, how about if we started something of our own, that A, operationally shared the experience, B, in terms of running a business, I had extensive experience and the discipline of it. And also you asked me the other things, but I'll tell you just one other thing that's relevant. I also, in my latter stages of corporate work, manage corporate affairs of a very large company.
Corporate affairs. Now, for someone who doesn't know what that is,
okay. Corporate affairs, in other words, the company's interests externally with the community, with your environment, with government, and
social responsibility.
So, an element of which is social responsibility. But some of it would be government leads, and some of it would be linked with NGOs. Some of it would link with just the external side of the business, bringing the relevance of society to a business. So I've had also that experience, which to me would be something that would be very useful, because every business entity that you own doesn't live in isolation. It lives and is an integral part of society. So for me, I felt there was the ammunition, there was the technical know-how. Yes, there was maybe a learning to be had about the restaurant specific. There was also a learning to be had when now you are not operating under an umbrella of someone, but you're operating under your own. So your fundamentals in terms of systems, your fundamentals in terms of processes, you are now responsible for. I mean, young people today, they prefer finishing university and going to large companies because there things are set. There is an HR department. There is a corporate finance department. There's a supply chain department. There is all of that. Whereas when you've got your own business, all of that is you and you and you. And now you can immediately see the skills base that you need to have, the relationships that you need to build in order for you to be able to run in a cohesive way the unit that is yours. That unit has to succeed.
How important is what you just said when you said